Hey guys, and welcome back to Okami. Oh, it's time to go full Zelda now, guys, because we got our first dungeon. Welcome to the Tsuta Ruins. I think that's how it's pronounced, anyway.
That's pretty much how I've always pronounced it, so I think you're alright. I mean, basically, whenever it comes to Japanese pronunciation, it tends to, I think, always be pretty much as it's written. There are obviously, I think, a few words and few letters and syllables that aren't quite the same, but for the most part everything is quite phonetic.
So what can we expect from our first dungeon, mate?
Admittedly, there's not a huge amount that's incredibly exciting in terms of puzzles or whatever. It's very much like a big circle that we're going to do, but there is a really cool boss fight at the end of it. We are going to meet a particularly challenging foe, or at least the beginning of what will be a particularly challenging foe. And also, we are just going to have fun here. You're going to see me try and make jumps that really I should not be trying to make right now.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, I can tell you what. And I gotta say, like, right off the bat, you know what this dungeon reminds me of? And I'll make it a bit easier for you. It's from another Zelda game.
Oh god, nope. Gone completely blancamundo.
Well, it's the forest one from Wind Waker.
Ah, yes.
Actually, a little bit of Twilight Princess as well with the purple water.
Yes, definitely. I mean, like, I would have said that's probably what it would have reminded me of more, what with the murky, swampy area. But, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking here. Like, I'm quite glad that falling into the water from the top of that just puts me back on dry land. But yeah, I just was not jumping properly at all.
Oh, well, why didn't you do a retake then, Mr. Man?
Well, because I thought it was kind of funny, to be fair.
That's a discussion for another time, I think. But let me ask, how did dungeons play out in Okami compared to, say, like Zelda and whatnot? Are there like mini bosses? Are there keys to find? What's the dealio? What's the lowdown?
So you'll certainly find mini bosses. There are keys to an extent. Certainly not the types of keys that you'll be expecting to find.
Right.
If you think like we're going to be getting like steel keys that will open certain doors. No, it's a lot more exciting than that.
Oh, okay.
And sort of the general structure is kind of similar in that you'll have to solve puzzles to get through certain other bits, and you're working your way up to getting a new power.
Okay.
Generally. So think of the brush techniques as like the hook shot and the bow and stuff that you like, the dungeon item.
I get you.
And that will essentially then end up helping you out when you take on the boss. So they are very, very Zelda-esque dungeons. Probably more inspired by A Link to the Past than anything else, because I'm pretty sure that A Link to the Past is Hideki Kamiya's favourite Zelda game.
Oh, okay.
So that would have been more an inspiration than 3D Zelda, but there is obviously still quite a lot of 3D Zelda blood running through this in terms of the fact that, you know, it's a 3D game.
Yeah, for sure. How are the dungeons in Breath of the Wild? Because obviously I haven't gotten a Switch yet, and I'm kind of being a bit of a snob. I don't want to get it on Wii U, so I'm just waiting.
Well, that's totally fair, because it's amazing on Switch. So the dungeons is kind of... It's not a major spoiler, but it kind of is. So if you don't want to hear anything about Breath of the Wild, because you want to play it yourself, just turn down the volume for like a few 30 seconds or something. So the dungeons aren't really dungeons. You've got the shrines, which are like little mini puzzles.
I know about those.
Yeah, which are really fun. But then the dungeons are these big puzzle rooms, essentially. So you've got to get to different locations throughout it to activate a thing in the middle, which will then bring about the boss. So there's no finding an item, finding keys or whatever. It's figuring out how to move the structure you're in to get to where you need to go. If that makes any sense. I'm trying to be deliberately vague as much as possible, because when you actually get to it, it's really quite refreshing to experience.
Man, you should have cut this out. I'm embarrassed for you right now.
Well, you see, I think that was the main reason why I left it in, was because it was just like, to be fair, this is a really difficult jump, and one that is just, it's a nightmare to achieve. So I wanted to show you my struggle to do this for you, because I wanted to do it now to just be like, oh my god, I can blitz this, but no, I'm not a speedrunner. I don't know what the frick I'm doing. You
could have edited it out, is what I'm saying. No one cares about you being real and whatnot, Mr. Lazy Pants.
Well, you see, I felt that for this I needed to be real, because it's such a challenging jump, Tom. Like, you'll be very proud of me when I finally do actually manage it.
No, I fucking won't. I'm already done with you. You're already 6 minutes into the part.
But yeah, like, this is just a really evil jump to do, because you've got to wall jump at just the right moment and get the double jump on there and tackle, and it's really cool. I mean, the main thing that I would recommend if you don't want to be spending ages like I am trying to make this ridiculous jump is there's a move that you can get later on which will give you that extra bit of height, and that would make this quite a lot easier. And there we go, finally!
I don't give a shit, fuck you. I'm so mad right now. You've got no idea how badly it sets off my OCD, and you know something about setting off my fucking OCD, mate.
Yes, I know. Well, you see, Tom, this is the pain that you get for making me wait so long to do Okami on the channel.
Okay, you passive-aggressive bastard.
Says you, Tom. Says you.
Yeah, we're all passive-aggressive arseholes here at HFC. Birds of a feather and all that. Alright, mate, let's actually talk about the dungeon. Now, how would you rank it on the difficulty scale? Is it, like one of the more easy dungeons in Okami? Somewhere in the middle? What's your take on it?
It's very much if we're going on a scale of difficulty, this is a 1 out of 10 dungeon. It's really not challenging in the slightest. You may get into a bit of trouble towards the later half, but it's really, really simple in the long run. There's no real puzzles to speak of here. You're just sort of running through. Like, you're more likely to be challenged by trying to find all the hidden items here, because some of them you can't get until after you've beaten the dungeon, effectively. So you kind of have to go back through the dungeon to try and find things that you've missed the first time round. Which is totally fair. But what's interesting is that I believe this is actually the only dungeon in the game that does this.
Huh.
Like, all of the other dungeons, you can get everything whilst you're in there on the first visit. But for some reason, this one forces you to go back through it a second time as soon as you're done. If you want to pick everything up, obviously. You could leave it and not worry about it at all.
Well, not in this playthrough, my friends.
Indeed. This is a 100% playthrough. And I do mean that. It 100% everything. Including the... cock-ups.
Right.
There are some which you will laugh at. That one's not one of them, because that's me failing to walk up a bloody step.
What the fuck, Rishi? Were you just looking at a guide at this point? I'm just going to riff on you throughout this entire playthrough, if you realise.
You probably will, to be fair, because, I mean, to be fair, some of it is me going, right, let me just make sure I'm where I need to be right now, because it is difficult to make sure you know where every single item is in a dungeon or in the overworld.
Okay, yeah, fair play. It's not like you try to get a smooth run of the dungeon, and yes, sometimes you'll look down at a guide or play through it once. You've got to take like individual items into consideration as well.
The thing is that if you're just blitzing through the dungeon, this would not be a problem, because it's a very easy... Like, Okami, for the most part, is an easy game to just play through.
Right.
It's got a slow start, but you're never going to be majorly challenged by the platforming or any of that sort of stuff as you go along. And to be fair, the combat's not too challenging either. Ooh. I mean, we've got a Bud Ogre here, which is quite a fun enemy to take down. You just kind of attack it a little bit, and then you can bloom it and just bring the hurts.
That's pretty fun, actually. Like, you're using a tool of restoration to bring down destruction. Indeed.
I wouldn't recommend doing what I was doing at the start of this battle of trying to bloom it initially, because that will just make it spit stuff at you. You will know when it is time to bloom, i.e. now, because obviously it does a massive bloom this thing.
Yeah, it could be more obvious if it had a, like, glowing neon fuck me sign on it.
Indeed. And basically, yeah, this is your easy way of taking them down. The Bud Ogres are not a problem. And if you hadn't already figured it out, their floral finisher is Bloom. So it makes sense in all of that. And yes, taking down the Bud Ogre gets that open, and more ball pushing!
Yay! Are these the keys you were talking about?
No, these are not the keys I was talking about. Those are coming.
Ah, okay.
I can't wait for you to see them.
I can't tell what the tone is in your voice. You're holding your cards close to your chest right now, my friend.
Well, you see, that's because I want things to be a surprise where I can have them be a surprise. Because Okami is a surprise. Also, I pushed it onto the bloody thing. You can see it.
Momentum kept it rolling, my friend, and that's all that matters.
It's just an asshole. I hate balls in this game.
I hate balls, Richie. 2017.
I mean, to be fair, that's not bad. I can live with that one.
Now, unless I'm blind, it's already got like one up on Zelda in that there doesn't seem to be any scene transitions where you walk through doors and stuff fades out. It's all one flowing dungeon.
It is basically just one flowing dungeon. The only time that there will ever be a loading screen, you'll be able to see that you're going to go through it because there's like a little portally type effect going on. You will have probably seen it throughout the... If you remember when we went into Hana Valley,
right?
The cave went it kind of faded into blackness, and there was like a circle with like kanji written around it. Essentially, that is your cue that there's going to be a loading screen. But for the most part, Okami is very, very open. It's not an entirely open world, as is very much the trend at the minute.
Just date the video, why don't you?
Come on, we're playing Okami in 2017. It's already dated.
The current year and all that.
You know, to be fair, I've completely lost my train of thought because we've just made a log up here with mushrooms on it, and we are going to make the mushrooms grow.
Every time, mate. You know, it's just a mushroom with stuff on it. Now, what's next on our agenda? Do you actually have some trivia on the Bud Ogres? Is there anything in folklore that alludes to creatures like these?
Well, if you bear with me a second, I can get that up, because the only thing that I had actually gotten up was the bit about the Tsuta ruins.
Okay.
But I do actually have some stuff for the Bud Ogre. So, their Japanese name is Hozuki, which is Demon Lantern. Basically, they are actually based on... well, so there's a bit of folklore that's mentioned in the Okami official complete works. which I would get out, but it's over the other side of the room at the minute, so that one's not going to happen. Which I think is basically that there's this sort of evil bud thing that killed people. But also, it's probably based on the Hazuki, which is a type of plant with a papery covering around its round cherry-like fruit. So that's basically sort of what the bud ogre looks like.
Man, all this stuff is just clever. Or maybe I'm just dumb and it seems clever, you know?
Well, it's just, there's loads of little touches with everything. Like, as I said, even with like the green, well, with the imps, the marks on their mask are actually kanji, and they actually mean something. All of the names have very distinct meanings, even if they're not mythological figures. There is still a very important reason why they are called what they're called, and I have no idea how you're meant to realise that you can bomb that, because there's no... You don't get the typical telltale sign of a bombable wall of a massive crack.
What the hell, game designers? Get together. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there. Continue.
But yeah, so I mean, I don't know how you figure that one out, but I suppose it's something to do with the map. The map suggests that there's a little hidden area. But yes, now we're getting to a point where there will be sort of no return from where we are. So you've got to be a little bit careful.
I love the sense of scale in the dungeon's layout.
They're huge. And while they are relatively simple in terms of what you need to do with them, I mean, so far we've basically just been following a straight line. Which is actually very much how Zelda titles had gone for the longest time. Like, if there's a guy called Game Maker's Toolkit. Well, he's called Mark Brown, but he's got a channel called Game Maker's Toolkit, and he's been doing a series on Zelda and Zelda Dungeons called Boss Keys. And he's actually mapped out the structure of all of those dungeons.
Uh-huh.
And as you get from early Zelda, where they're very open, there's multiple ways of getting through a dungeon. When you get to, like, Twilight Princess, you're basically just following a straight line. There's very little options of where to go. And I would say that very much Okami does sort of follow that. Like, there is pretty much only one route through the dungeon.
Well,
but I think because they are over so many different levels, and they do feel quite open and freeform, also because of the gameplay, it gets away with that.
You know, linearity isn't, you know, intrinsically, inherently a bad thing. That's the I word I was looking for. If it's a fun journey, I don't mind being railroaded.
Exactly.
It's when you have to go through the same looking rooms over and over and over, doing boring, grindy gameplay, when linearity becomes terrible. Otherwise, A-okay with it.
It's one of those difficult things that you can never quite manage, but hey, it's a blockhead!
Yeah, you, get out of the way!
So yes, we have a literal wall who is an enemy.
Okay, I guess.
Which is just glorious. If we ram into him, he will show his weak points, and we have to dot them with our celestial brush.
Oh my god, the wall has chi points!
It's quite funny, I do like the blockheads, but let's just say they get pretty gosh darn tough later on in the game.
They have to avenge their fallen brothers, and I love how it says he died a warrior's death.
Indeed. So, the Japanese name for blockhead is Tosenbo, I believe. Basically, they are based on the Nurikabe of Japanese folklore. Nurikabe being a yokai or spirit from Japanese folklore that manifests itself as a wall that impedes or misdirects walking travellers at night. Yeah, basically they are the inspiration for womps and thwomps.
Oh, okay. I was going to bring up Final Fantasy IV, where there is a boss who is a demon wall, and he's hard as balls.
Yeah, that would probably be based on a very similar thing. And also, we just picked up the key and the lock that I was saying. It's not quite the locks and keys you're expecting, because the key is like a very fancy key, but the lock it's alive. It's called a lockjaw. It's great.
It's a game about demons and gods. I'd expect nothing less.
I know, it's awesome. The Japanese name for the lockjaw is, I'm probably going to butcher this one, but oh well, Jome Obake, which is the haunted lock.
Nice.
And I just adore the animations on the lockjaws, because as you get closer and closer to them, they start freaking the hell out. And it's kind of very bloodthirsty and sadistic, because I'm getting joy out of their pain. But they're demon locks, so really, who cares?
Yeah, fuck them, really.
And also, you may notice that we are currently fighting in a blue scroll. Basically, as you kind of get through the game, you'll come across different colours of scrolls, and basically, a blue scroll is more difficult than a green scroll.
Yeah.
Effectively.
So I'm guessing red is the last one.
I'm not actually too sure.
Well, it started with green, then it went to blue. Usually after that it goes to like either yellow or red.
Well, yellow and red are definitely present as colours, I can tell you that much, but I cannot remember which scale the difficulties go in. It's not hugely important, to be fair, because you're just going to be facing them down whatever. But yes, now this is something that's actually really quite fun with Okami, is that even though you have the dungeon-specific items, well, dungeon-specific brush techniques, you will still make use of all your other techniques throughout.
As it should be.
Which is something that the Zelda franchise really did start to do quite badly at, because it just focused solely on the one item that you picked up, whereas Okami is very good at making sure you use almost everything that you pick up. There are a few brush techniques which don't prove to be all that useful.
Well, just for, like, a status, healing, or stuff like that?
Well, no, because they're all useful in some form for some sort of combat.
Okay.
But as in, like, there are some puzzles which, like, they're only... It's mostly like the last brush technique, because you don't get it until so late in the game.
Yeah, right.
It only has its uses for the puzzles that it's related to.
It's situational, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. But things like Bloom and Power Slash and Rejuvenation, we will be using constantly throughout the game, and it's cool because you build upon what you know, and your skills increase, and it's just really satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, before we can actually go any further, we need to take on 3 demon gates.
Why not? We haven't done nearly enough fighting to satiate my bloodlust in this part.
Well, trust me, we'll be doing plenty of fighting throughout the game, including, as I said, those last final challenges.
Oh, jeez!
Exclusively fighting for hours.
Nothing but fighting, exclusively.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to dig deep into the recesses of the tangent to make our way through those.
I am just gonna take clips of me from other commentaries we've done over the years and splice them into a 90-minute compilation, and you can riff off that. See you later.
No, Tom, you can't do that to me, because I've done this solo. I have done my time. You can suffer as well.
No, motherfucker, hello, I'm Tom64 and welcome back to Kingdom Hearts. Oh wow, this Decepticon went down in one hit, wow! All this and more to come in the extras, enjoy, motherfuckers.
All these people so excited and so desperate to see this commentary, and it's already developed into a little bit of a fever dream.
It really has. Well, we're fighting demons, what do you expect, really?
'Tis true, and as I have said and will continue to say, the start of Okami is kind of slow. I mean, obviously we're in an exciting first dungeon now, and it's slow, but it's not that slow. But but it's a game that does get exponentially more exciting. One thing I would suggest is, I'm loving all the comments because the first part went live very recently. As in, I think it was today.
Yeah, it was today, yeah.
And I've been loving all the comments. I would recommend to some people, if you don't want to be spoiled, there are maybe 1 or 2 spoilers lurking beneath, so you might want to be careful. But yes, it is a game that gets exponentially more fun as it goes on.
Well, one of the commentators on the fucking playthrough has already been spoiled on the final boss there.
We'll see whether that's exactly true. Because if I'm recalling what you said was the spoiler, you might not be quite correct, but I can't really remember. So we'll see when we get there.
Okay. Ooh.
As to whether that is indeed correct.
Alright, so where's the boss then? It's going to be a short boss fight, judging by the time we have left.
Yeah, no, we've got another half of the dungeon to go.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because some of the dungeons are quite long. I mean, even this early one, I decided to kind of just split them up so that we have nice chunks. Because, I mean, this one's got a very nice one because we've got this thing which is what's poisoning the water flow.
Right.
And that essentially gives us a nice stopping point to then just focus on finishing off the dungeon in the next part.
I gotcha.
This was at the time in my editing and doing commentary where I did prefer to have shorter parts. I still do. But at this point I'm more likely to do a longer part if it means I can do a full dungeon or whatever in it. Whereas at this time I was very much, I'm trying to get this as short as possible. I mean, we're still nearly 27 minutes in. But I think it's because sometimes you're looking at like near an hour and ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, well, I try and tailor parts based on what's currently going on in the game, so don't arbitrarily put limits on yourself is the advice I'd give to anyone watching. I don't know why this LP is so advice heavy so far, but I'm not complaining. See you guys next time for the rest of Tsuta Ruins.